All right, everybody. So welcome to our March 2024 Lunch and Learn, virtual Lunch and Learn training. And today our topic is on the Birth to Three program. Birth to Three program. And I'm really, really excited for this training because several of you over the last couple of weeks and months have asked some questions specifically about services for younger folk. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Erin Rich, who's our presenter, along with a coworker. And I'm going to have Erin, kind of you introduce yourself, including your connection to the CASA program.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Erin Rich. I am the Part C coordinator for Delaware's Birth to Three Early Intervention Program. And I was a CASA for almost 10 years in Kent County. So really happy to be able to be with you all today. I appreciate the work that you do. I miss it. So I have just sort of a general overview kind of presentation about what our program is. Shouldn't take too long, and then I'll wrap that up and you all can ask any questions that you might have. So I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see that? Okay, great. So again, thanks for having me. And we're gonna talk about Delaware's Birth to Three Early Intervention Program. Just gonna give a little bit of information about how we got here, who we are, what we do, and then most importantly, how we can work together. So the Birth to Three program, we are housed under the IDEA law, and we are Part C. So Part B or 619, some of you may be familiar with from working with kiddos that are school age. So Part B refers to those kids that have IEPs and are in receiving some kind of special education services. Part C are the laws that are specific to kiddos aged birth to three. The Birth to Three program in Delaware is housed within DHSS, the Department of Health and Social Services. And then more specifically, even we are in DPH, which is the Department of Public Health. The Birth to Three Early Intervention Program is statewide. As the Part C coordinator, I'm part of the administration for the Birth to Three Early Intervention Program, but then we also have two regional programs, what used to be referred to as CDW or Child Development Watch. It's still the same program it always has been, but we call it the Birth to Three Regional Programs. There's a New Castle County section, and then there's a section that serves Kent County and Sussex County. So IDEA stands for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and that act protects the rights of people with disabilities throughout their lifespan. And then, as I said, Part C is specific to kiddos ages birth to three. So the early intervention program is for infants and toddlers with disabilities and delays. And we, as a program, try to assist children and their families in developing to be age appropriate or getting closer to age appropriate whenever possible. Our program tries to facilitate the entire family's journey through helping their infant or toddler with their disability or delay. We want to enhance the lives of the families that that come into our program and encourage them to become the strong and confident advocates that they are going to need to be for their kiddos, most likely for that child's entire life, depending on the nature of the disability. So the mission of Delaware's Birth to 3 Early Intervention Program is to enhance the development of infants and toddlers with disabilities and/or developmental delays, and to enhance the capacity of their families to meet the special needs of these young children. So our program is very much family-centered. We're focusing not just on the child, but the entire family unit when we are trying to support our infants and toddlers with disabilities. So again, it's a family-centered focus, which is going to get complicated when you are talking about children in care. And we can talk about that a little bit more in the question and answer period. But it is a family-centered approach, so we are looking at the entire family most of the time. And providers, so the people who provide services, whether a child requires speech services or physical therapy, take a coaching approach to providing services. So they are not just going into the house and taking the child aside and providing them with a service for an hour, but they're really trying to teach the folks, the caregivers of that child, how to help build that child's capacity. We try to integrate services. So some infants and toddlers may have a variety of needs. And so oftentimes they see more than one early intervention specialist. So for example, a child might need speech and they might also need occupational therapy. So those different providers work together with our family service coordinators and with the family as a team to try to meet whatever needs that child has. Universal application, so we are a statewide program and we provide services to kiddos all across our state. Cost effectiveness, so Part C is what we call the payer of last resort. Basically, a family should never see any bills for early intervention services for their child. So bills can go through, if a family has private insurance, great. If they have Medicaid, great. But after any costs go through those two funnels, if there's anything left over, that falls on us to pay. We don't want families to have to worry about the cost of early intervention services for their infant or toddler. And of course, we strive to provide high quality services. So, service coordination. We have in the Birth to 3 Early Intervention Program what we call Family Service Coordinators, or FSCs. And you as CASAs, I would encourage you whenever you have a child in care who's in our program to get to know your child's FSC. The FSC, or Family Service Coordinator, really kind of oversees everything that's going on with that kiddo in the program. They're in touch with all of the different providers. They're in touch with the family. They meet with the family regularly to talk about the progress that the child is making. They get together with the family when they first come to us to talk about what the family's goals and objectives are for their child, and then monitor as the child moves through our program to make sure that those goals and objectives are being met, or at least that we're making progress towards them. So this slide here just kind of gives an overview of all the things that a family service coordinator is responsible for. But the thing that I wanted you to walk away with from this is just that this person, the FSC, is going to be a really good contact for you as the CASA when you are trying to monitor what's going on with the child, how they're doing, working on your report for the court, et cetera. The FSC is going to be a great resource for you for that information. So some information about our program: it is 100% voluntary. So a family chooses to participate in our program, they certainly don't have to. It's not an income-based social service program, so a family's income has nothing to do with whether or not they would be eligible for our program. Eligibility for our program is based on either an established condition, so some kind of medical diagnosis that the child has. Eligibility can be based on whether the child is a birth mandate child, and Delaware is a birth mandate state, which means that if a child has a birth mandate disability, hearing deaf or hearing impaired, hard of hearing, blind, autism, things like that, those are birth mandate conditions. They're automatically eligible for our program. Or if they have any other kind of developmental delay, they can be eligible for our program. We provide services whenever possible and whenever appropriate in the natural environment. So rather than having to bring an infant and toddler to an office where they're receiving physical therapy or speech services, we try to provide those services in the natural environment. So they would take place in the home or in the daycare facility, or perhaps a library or playground, some natural environment that is normal for that child to be in, because we believe that children learn and grow best in the natural environment rather than some sort of manufactured setting. So the family experience starts with a referral to the program. Anyone can refer a child to Birth to Three. You as a CASA could refer a pediatrician, a parent. So it starts with the referral, and then the child's information goes to central intake, and the family will go through an intake process where they're asked questions. Eligibility will be determined. So if the child has an established condition or their birth mandate, they're automatically eligible. If there's just a suspicion of a delay or disability, then the Birth to Three program will administer a multidisciplinary evaluation to determine whether or not the child has a disability or a delay. And then once eligible, the child receives a multidisciplinary assessment and a family-directed assessment to get as much information as we can about what the child is struggling with and what the family would like to work on. Then we develop what's called an IFSP, which is the Part C version of an IEP. But because Part C is family-centered, it's an IFSP instead of an IEP. IEP focusing on education. And the service plan in the Birth to Three program is really focusing on the needs of the entire family. And then as a child gets close to their third birthday, we try to prepare them as best we can for transitioning out of the program. Some of our kiddos become eligible for Part B and will start receiving services through their school district. Others may have, may not qualify for Part B, so they may be referred to their pediatrician or whatever. We try to individualize as much as possible. So part of the transition process is determining whether or not the family wants the child to move into Part B, whether the child is eligible for Part B, and if not, then what else can we recommend the family do once they age out, once the child ages out of our program. So as I said, referrals can come from anyone really, but they are most effective if they're coming from parents or guardians or family members. They're more likely to buy into the program that way. But it can come from a pediatrician, a medical care provider, child care provider, anybody who knows the child and suspects that there may be a problem. For first contact with the family, the FSC, the Family Service Coordinator, will receive the referral to establish contact with the parent, and they will explain the program to the parent. Within 45 days of that referral, the child and family should go through the intake process, determine whether or not they're eligible, have their initial individualized family service plan created that includes those goals and outcomes. And that 45-day timeline is a federal requirement under the laws of IDEA Part C, and we are monitored by OSEP, the Office of Special Education, to make sure that we comply with that timeline. Another requirement is the 30-day timeline. So 30 days from the date of consent. So once a child is determined eligible and we figure out what kind of services are going to meet the needs of that child and family, the parent consents to participating in the program. 30 days from that consent, services should begin with the early intervention service provider. And that, again, is federally mandated and monitored by OSEP. So what is a parent in the state of Delaware? Parent defined under Part C is somewhat different from how it's defined in Delaware under Delaware Code Title 14. Basically, in Delaware, a parent is the parent, or if the child has a legal guardian, so maybe grandmom has filed for guardianship and she's the legal guardian, she is considered a parent and can consent for the child to participate in the program. If mom or dad is nowhere to be found, or if the parental rights have been terminated and the child has not yet been adopted, then the child is going to need to have an educational surrogate parent, just like they would for an IEP. So a foster mom, a foster parent cannot consent for the child to participate in the program. It must be a parent, a legal guardian, or the educational surrogate parent that consents. So this is all what I just said, right? Under Delaware Code, it's only parents or legal guardians or an educational surrogate that can consent. So the individualized family service plan I mentioned before, we call it the IFSP. We have so many acronyms in this business. Hope I am not losing anybody, but I can absolutely clarify at the end of this. But so the individualized family service plan, that IFSP, so again, that's like the Part C version of an IEP, is unique to the family. It documents the agreed upon goals and outcomes of the IFSP team, which can include parents, or in your situation, foster mom could absolutely be part of an IFSP meeting. Any early intervention providers can be part of the team. Even if the child is in childcare, if they go attend childcare, a teacher or something from that childcare center can participate in IFSP planning. So anyone, but it's creating a plan that's unique to that family's needs, goals. It serves as a guide. So it helps families to better understand their role, the role of the family service coordinator, the role of the provider. It really is a team approach. The IFSP is used for data collection. It's used for reporting. We have to do a lot of federal reporting on the status of our program and the progress that our kiddos make, and program monitoring, making sure that providers and family service coordinators are abiding by Part C regulations. The IFSP, that individualized plan, is reviewed at least every 6 months after that initial plan is written, although a parent can request an IFSP review at any time. So IDEA defines early intervention services They're chosen to meet the developmental needs of the child and to assist the family to meet their child's needs. Services, as I mentioned before, whenever possible and appropriate, are provided in the natural environment. Some examples of early intervention services include audiology, speech and language services, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and early childhood education. I mentioned transition before. Transition as they're getting close to their 3rd birthday. The process begins about 9 months or 90 days, somewhere in there, before the child's 3rd birthday. There needs to be a transition conference where everybody sits down at the table together and talks about what's going to happen after Part C. What's the plan? So the FSC, that family service coordinator, and the family collaborate to decide next steps. Do you want to try to take advantage of Part B services? Do you want to try to take a different path? What is going to best meet the individual needs of that child and family? And then depending on what the decision is, the family service coordinator, FSC, will assist in connecting the family to Part B or Head Start or a private preschool services or something else or nothing. So how to help? Just being knowledgeable about our program, knowing that our program exists and that you can reach out to us, you can refer to us. You can check out the IDEA federal regulations. You can access them pretty easily through our website. We have a new website and it's at www.b-to-3de.org. So if you want any questions that you have about the program, you can go check out our website. There's contact information. There's all sorts of information about what our program is, what we offer, etc. You can also access the Birth to 3 Early Intervention Program's policies and procedures manual on our website, which just talks all about what we do, gives a lot of definitions, a lot of information. And you can assist families with getting connected by directing them to our website, giving them contact information, talking to them about what you heard here today. And then my contact information. So again, my name's Erin Rich. I'm the Part C coordinator. My email is right there. Pretty simple name and email address, I think. erin.rich@delaware.gov. This contact information can also be accessed on our website, that b-to-3de.org. The administration is at 410 Federal Street, so we're pretty walkable from the Kent County Family Courthouse. If any of you are based in Kent County, we're right near there. And again, our website, b-to-3de.org. And that is all I have for the overview presentation. So if anybody has any questions, I can try to answer them. I see Barb has her hand up. Oh,
yeah,
no,
I just wanted to know, how's a person become an educational surrogate parent, or who picks that?
So the Birth to 3 program has to maintain a list of potential educational surrogates, but it's also possible that the judge in your case would appoint an educational surrogate, and you can reach out to us, or you can speak to, I remember when I was a CASA, and I needed an educational surrogate for a school-age child, I went to my coordinator and she walked me through the process.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I think Linda has her hand up. Linda, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, I was the child find coordinator in the Christina School District before I retired and worked closely with Ron Engard. I don't know if you know him, but my question is, because we used to have children come in sometimes at 2.5 rather than waiting till they were 3 if their cutoff was a little earlier. But my question is, I was told my CASA child, my surrogate foster child, has been referred. The foster parents cannot refer them, according to what you said. It has to be the custodial parents. So she told me DFS also made a referral. The child's 8 months old and hasn't been evaluated yet. Should I just call and make a referral myself today?
Sure, you can refer through the website or you can call the number,
Okay.
either one. Yeah.
Yeah, I did an observation and he's got some issues that really need to be checked out. So I'll do that today when I get off our chat here.
Is the child in care with a foster family?
Yes.
And the foster family hasn't received a call from
No,
the
not
early
as of
intervention?
Friday, not as of last Friday when I spoke with them the last time. But it may not have been the 45 days because they haven't had the child all that long. So they may be in the system, and I'll ask that question when I call. He might be in the system just waiting for an eval, but he definitely has some visual issues and a sister that's blind. So we need to get him checked out.
Absolutely, yeah. And it sounds like he may have an easier time with the eligibility process if he has a established condition with regard to his vision.
Yeah, we need to
Yeah.
confirm with them. Okay, thanks.
Sure. I think Tanya is next.
Yeah, go for it, Tanya. If you want to lower your hand or unmute yourself, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi. So I have a little girl who has been evaluated. We're still waiting on the paperwork to let us know what they found out. Now, would the coordinator that I would deal with, would her name be on the report? Or
Yes.
so how I'm sorry, go ahead.
The family, were you at the evaluation by any chance?
I was not there, but my little girl's mother was able to attend.
So the family service coordinator that will be assigned to the case would have been at that evaluation too. So she would have met mom at that time.
Okay, and so how will I know who she is? I guess when my coordinator gets a copy and she'll send out the email letting her know who I am, then that's when I can get in contact with her, I guess.
Yes, that
Okay.
sounds right.
Now, I have a little boy who the adoption paperwork is pending. Hopefully before the end of the month, it'll be official. Now, he has some auditory issues. He's being retested, but I don't think he's been retested yet. Now, once he's adopted, and if he needs these type of services, is he still eligible?
As long as he hasn't turned 3 yet, he
Okay,
could participate in the program.
okay, because I want to, refer her to give her your information. So in
Absolutely.
case he needs anything up until 3. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Erin, kind of piggybacking off of Tanya's question, once a child is adopted and those adoptive parents are the legal adoptive parents of a child, I'm assuming they assume the role of being a parent and they can consent to services?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. As soon as the child has been adopted, they are the parent and they can consent to services. Absolutely.
I have a question about you were talking about the birth mandate, and that's really interesting that there are certain diagnoses that automatically make a young person eligible for your services. Is there any diagnoses revolving around substance exposure upon birth that is considered as a birth mandate?
They wouldn't be a birth mandate, but they may be an established condition, which would just require a medical diagnosis. I think Joyce is next.
Go for it, Joyce. Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, I have 2 children at this time. And in terms of whether it's voluntary, involuntary, they weren't in care, but the younger one, the oldest one was receiving Easter Seals care.
Uh-huh.
because he has some vision and cerebral palsy, other issues, okay? So I'm just trying to understand, now he's in care, and so he has to get those same services. They've set him up, but in terms of the intake and assessment and all that stuff, because you're saying that this is an involuntary program, how would I know if they are in this early intervention program or if they're just receiving services from early Easter seals?
It would be hard for me to answer. So what is the child is in care, and what's up with mom and dad? Are you able to contact them, or?
Well, they are in care now. Mom has quite a few issues: drug, substance abuse, domestic violence, a lot of issues, mental health. So the one child was with maternal grandparents, and the other child is 9 months, 8 months, and she was basically being cared for by mom. But the child that I'm talking about was really in the care of maternal grandparents. And now both of them have been removed and placed in foster care, separate foster care homes. And so I know that she said that maternal grandmother said that he was receiving services. They were coming to the house and he was getting these services, but now he's in care in Newcastle County, not in Kent County. And now he just started receiving some of those Easter Seal services. But I don't know if they're part of, and he's two. So I don't
It
know if
sounds
they're
like
part of the early intervention or not.
It sounds like if he was receiving services in the home, in the natural environment, that he was probably in our program. Families who stick with their private insurance tend to, they take their kiddos to the clinic to receive services. So I'm guessing that he was in our program if he was receiving services in the natural environment. And if there's any way you can find out from grandmom or granddad who that FSC was, that would probably be your best resource.
That's what I'm going to try and find. And would they, in that sense, now the other child is 8-month-old, 9-month-old, significant delays and a lot of issues. Would that be, I mean, now I have to probably see if, well, see, she's with foster parents now, but she's also in a medical daycare and she's receiving services there. But would it be helpful for her to also get into early intervention?
Yeah, and she may be, if she's receiving services at her daycare, that's another avenue that families can take. That's still considered the natural environment, and early intervention providers will go out to daycares to provide services there.
Okay, but that would be separate from like the early intervention program. So I'm saying now if she comes out of care and goes back with maternal grandmother or parent, reunited with parent before she turns 3, I'm just trying to say, would it be beneficial to probably get her into early intervention at this time?
I feel like it can never hurt to refer, and then get the child on our radar, and we can, if it's a medical diagnosis, an established condition, they're automatically eligible. Otherwise, they'll do an evaluation to determine the extent of the delays. So, so many infants and toddlers in care are at risk for delays and disabilities. And so I am kind of the mind that it can't hurt to make sure. We really want to try to steer away from this sort of historic message from pediatricians of like, well, wait and see, we don't want to do anything too quickly. We kind of feel the opposite, that it's better safe than sorry. And let's see if anything's going on and if we can intervene, because the earlier we start providing services and support, the better the outcomes will be for the child in the long run. Does that help?
That does, but I'm just, right now, I'm like thinking, do I make a referral and then?
You could. I mean, anyone can make a referral. It's just that consent piece that has to be mom or dad or the legal guardian or the educational surrogate. But anyone can make a referral.
But like if they're in custody, DFS custody, wouldn't that have been, they would have made the referral, given the fact that they know, I mean, given the fact that DFS can make the referral, right?
They can. I don't know if they did or if they would, but they certainly can. But I wouldn't
But
want
they-
to say what DFS did or didn't do.
But I'm just saying, because they're the ones with, we're working with them, but to set up services for this child to get, the speech therapy, the physical therapy, the OT, all these things that they need, right?
Right. It sounds like maybe also it would be helpful to talk to whoever the DFS worker assigned to the case is. They would at least be able to tell you whether or not they had referred or, let you take a look at that file and kind of read through what the history is there.
Well, it's all new. And the new treatment worker just came on board. So I've been involved in
Gotcha.
it way before she's been involved. So that's why I'm just, I know that they have to approve certain services too, right?
DFS?
Yeah. Approve-
No,
No? Okay.
not for early intervention. No, they
Okay.
don't. Yeah.
Okay.
They can't consent, but they can, they don't need to, like, if you feel like the child should be referred, but the DFS worker disagrees, that you don't need their approval.
Joyce, it sounds like the best thing maybe to first is just reach out more so out of courtesy to ask that, just connect with the new DFS worker and just say, hey, these are my concerns. Have you observed any of these issues as well? Or have you already made a referral? And then you can determine like, oh, wait, she's already made one, no big deal. Like that's already covered. Or there hasn't been a referral made, then you go ahead and make one.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
Yeah. Chad, I see your hands up. Why don't you unmute yourself and ask your question?
So, I was wondering if you could shed some light on what role, if any, the CASA would have during the service plan process. Like if they're, if you have the child, there's a referral, and then they, get the service plan. Does the CASA have a role in that, or could the CASA have a role in that? And also, if after X amount of months when it's being reviewed, would the CASA have a role in that?
Potentially, yes. And it's really it would depend on what the situation is. If you're talking about an infant or toddler that's been TPR'd and there's an educational surrogate, I would say, yes, please get involved. If the child is with grandmom and grandmom's going for guardianship, it might be more of a decision that grandmom makes. If mom is locked up, but she's working towards reunification and is willing to consent to services, the CASA could be a really good liaison, because IFSP planning is going to be difficult with mom locked up. But so it really kind of depends on the situation. I don't mean to punt your question, because I think it's a good one, but it does kind of depend on who the parent is in that particular case.
Yeah, and I would imagine too, it depends on, what's going on with the foster parent and, all of that as well. But I was just interested in that because I know with an IEP, we could potentially have a role in that depending on the circumstances.
Yes.
And I didn't know if that was something that we could be a party to as well. So that's very interesting. Can you have a case where the foster parent is the educational surrogate then?
Mm-mm.
No?
In Delaware, the foster parent is not allowed to also serve as the educational surrogate.
Okay, because I know in my case, the child has been referred and is in the program. Mom is out of the picture at this point out of state. So she may have consented beforehand, but I was just kind of wondering where that all came from. But thank you for that clarification.
So our administrator used to be the DFS liaison for the Kent Sussex program, and she's telling me that that's not correct, that the foster parent can be appointed.
Okay,
If
that
they
makes sense.
are already an ed surrogate, they can be appointed.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just kind of speaking about foster parents and biological parents. Erin, can you shed some light on the actual services? So I know Easter Seals is a big service provider. What does your program do when we've got an active foster parent and an active biological parent? When it comes to services, kind of how does that, I think it's the FSP, how do they kind of communicate with kind of both parents when services are being provided?
So they would, again, it would depend on the individual situation. But in terms of how services are provided and where they're provided, it would depend on what the child's daily life is. So are they home with foster mom all day long? Then services will most likely take place in the foster home. Do they go to are they in daycare all day? Then most likely the services would be provided in the daycare. But then it also would depend on what specific services we're talking about. So if a child needs OT because they're having trouble with feeding, then services would ideally take place around meal times. So it would depend on when and where those were. So it's really that I in the IFSP for individualized, it really is an individualized plan that's built around what is going on with that child and whatever family that child is living with, and how to meet the needs of that specific individual situation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you just clarify for me? You said there's a transition exit program or plan, and that's like, what did you say, 90 days? Did you say 90 days before the child turns 3 or 60 days? What did you say?
It's as soon as 9 months
9
before the
months.
third birthday, but no less than 90 days before the third birthday. That transition conference needs to happen.
Okay, transition conference, okay.
And Erin, you had talked about part A, part B, and part C, and I think it was part B. Is that the 4-year, like 3 to 5-year-old roughly?
Exactly.
Okay. So in a school district that has like a pre-K3 program or pre-K4 program, if an individual qualified as a part B, would that allow them to get into that school district, into that class or into that school?
I don't know. That's a part B question, so I'm not sure.
Gotcha. No problem. I would assume that would probably be part of the transition discussion. And I'm sure it would also probably, like you said, depend on the individual client, but also probably on the individual school as well.
Exactly, because
Okay.
in Delaware, each school district kind of has their own rules and their own system for services. So it's a lot of what may or may not happen if a child is eligible for Part B has to do with whatever their home school district is.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Linda.
Linda.
Yeah, go for it, Linda.
Okay. My question is the educational surrogate parent program, is it the same for once the children are in school as it is with it being in child development watch? Because we're having, I just found out that the little boy that I have as a CASA client has been evaluated, and their whole holdup is they're waiting for an educational surrogate parent. I don't know how I could expedite that. I mean, I'd be happy to do it if I'm allowed, but the foster mom is a special ed teacher, so I don't know why she can't just be assigned, and she teaches in the room 2 doors down from his daycare in a public school. So can you like tell me how to move this along?
So when's your next when's the next hearing?
Next Thursday.
Because it's possible for the judge to appoint an educational surrogate. So I would
Okay.
definitely bring that up.
I have a conference with our attorney for the child at 1 o'clock, so I will ask
Perfect.
to bring that up. Thank you.
Sure.
And I'm
Nice.
going to answer a question that hasn't been asked, but Linda and Barb kind of asked more or less about how to become an educational surrogate parent. and Sam put some information in the chat about it. Basically what you do is you go through a training through the Parent Information Center. So everybody kind of take a look at that chat that Sam, nicely detailed in there. But it used to be 3 hours. I think it's less than that now, and it's online. But Kathy Harrell is the person who oversees the Parent Information Center, and she conducts the educational surrogate parent training. So you just go through that training, and then you become like a certified educational surrogate parent. As a CASA, a lot of our CASAs go on to become ESPs, Linda, and actually this exact type of situation where their CASA child is referred to, needs an ESP, and the CASA says, well, I'll do it too, because you're already at the same meetings. So you can, do those meetings, go through that training and become an ESP and just wear 2 hats at the IEP meeting. And the educational surrogate training also, counts towards CASA training. So that first of all, like the next step would be to contact Kathy Harrell, and her information is in the chat from Sam, but I will put it, I will kind of highlight it again and kind of put it in for everybody else. So that's the way to do it.
Lauren,
Yeah.
I'll say something. I just did the ESP training. It's really easy. I would highly recommend it. She offered me if I wanted to be an ESP for other children, but I told her right now, I kind of thought my CASA kids were going to need one, which I was correct, but I highly recommend it. It was online and a quick interview with her. So it's easy. I shied away, but it's very simple. So it's great for CASAs.
Thanks, Paula.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. Absolutely a good idea for a CASA to have that tool in your kit. It makes things easier. And you know more than almost anybody else involved, right? Because you see everything that's going on, not just from one particular lens. So you're in a really good position to be able to advocate for your child in care, because of that perspective. So being able to be the ed surrogate is great.
Have you seen instances where, because this is a voluntary program, parents just opt out and don't want to do it?
Yes, it happens.
Wow. Mm.
All right, everybody. Any kind of final questions before we sign off? Awesome. Erin, thank you so much for doing this. I so appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to do it anytime. And if anybody missed my email address or comes and gets in touch with you later with questions or whatever, please feel free to share my contact information. Always happy to help a CASA.
Can you
Awesome.
give your phone number again? Because the screen, you've moved the screen before the phone number is on.
The phone number for the administration office is 302-739-2730. And then our website again is b23de.org. And the website has everybody's contact information, phone numbers to reach the regional programs directly. You can complete a referral through the website. So that's a really great place to go if you're looking for any information. And then again, my name is Erin Rich, and you can email me erin.rich@delaware.gov.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being a CASA. It's such an important thing, and really appreciate it.